This podcast brought to you by Full Hybrid Windows Event. Hybrid.
I will look.
Hybrid. Gas mileage.
I think you and I, everyone who watched this event, are.
Oh, you just froze.
It's okay.
Well, we're just gonna restart it here because it was the irony of everything in life, especially because
I could do this better. This stupid thing. I wonder. That doesn't matter.
Because 3 seconds before Paul got on the podcast, he was like, "Everything's working great."
I literally, yeah,
you spoke it into existence.
I literally said we should be happy when things work. You know, I complain when things don't work, and then the call went down.
Which we should point out, not the fault of Microsoft in this case.
Self-inflicted, yeah. All right, so you want me to start over? What I was saying was, leading up to this event yesterday, we can all understand basic English. It's a hybrid work event, right? I mean,
yeah.
What did you think they were going to talk about? But I think on the part of people like you and I and enthusiasts, anyone watching this, whatever, there was this hope, I think, that they would just show off other new features. Something. I don't know. Talk about fixing the things that they broke. Let's talk about, And the two key takeaways that I have from this event are that if you were hoping for V2 coming this October or whenever to solve all the problems, I feel less good about that right now.
Yeah.
And if you think that that Windows 11 is somehow ready for businesses, you don't know anything about businesses or Windows 11 for that matter. That is an absurd claim. And I keep mentioning this because I'm obsessed with it right now. I've been writing this Windows 11 or Windows history thing.
Yeah.
I literally spent the entire afternoon yesterday on it and published not a word because it's so complicated and big. But what I'm reminded of is that there are these times in history where things happen with Windows and business customers, Almost universally, businesses don't move to a new Windows version immediately, like almost universally. And it's obvious, right? Like that sounds obvious. Historically, they would wait for like the Service Pack 1 release. That was always the big line. But the truth is they weren't waiting on Service Pack 1. They were waiting. They just wait. They go slow. That's what they do. It's understandable. There were two exceptions to this. One was Windows 7. And Windows 7 arrived at a time that was roughly, I'm going to say 8 years after Windows XP. Businesses largely stayed on Windows XP because it was the thing that was in market for so long, and because Windows Vista, for real or perceived reasons, was terrible. So by the time Windows 7 arrived, they were ready. They were ready, and Windows 7 was adopted by businesses very quickly. That happened. Like that's real. The other one, and I don't have I don't have actual data about this because I was no longer at Windows IT Pro by this point. Whatever, but. The other one I would say was Windows 10, and just again through just because of a timing, Windows 8 was so terrible they didn't have to move right away. It was no big deal. But eventually, Windows 7 was kind of winding down, and people, companies started moving to Windows 10. And now we have Windows 11, and this thing isn't ready for people. What would make you think it was ready for businesses? And it comes with hardware requirements that are arbitrary. And will require forced upgrades of hardware as well. Now, a lot of businesses do upgrade hardware and software at the same time, but that's also very expensive. And this version will require some training because this version doesn't do everything that the previous version does. And they really haven't done a lot of that in the past. The big exception was Windows 8, which, by the way, did not go very well.
Yeah,
So there's specifics we should talk about that stuff. And there's some good stuff, by the way. Some of the accessibility stuff is amazing.
Yeah.
Some of the new features are fantastic. I'm not trying to dump on it, but if the point of this event was we tested this thing publicly for 3 months and shipped it, and now it's 6 months later and it's ready for business. Oh my God. Have you ever met a business? What are you talking about?
Well, here's the more, so there were a lot. First off, let's start with the easy stuff. Tabs and File Explorer. Looks great, although non-committal on when it's going to come. They just said it's coming. It's
By the way, non-committal on everything. I
Yeah,
got to tell you,
but everything, by the way.
I go back and find this. One of the there were three major Windows 365 features they announced, right?
Mm-hmm.
Direct. It was like a boot to
Boot to
365.
it, yep.
uh,
Then you can
off,
switch to it through like the virtual desktops. Yeah.
which, by the way, in the documentation we got, and it's probably the public blog post, they misreferred to the task view button as something else. I think they called it switcher. That's not the name of that thing. And in the video, they got it right. They actually called it task view. But I was like, I saw that in the documentation. I'm like, what are they changing the name of this? Anyway, one of those three features, I think it was the last one. I think it was the offline mode.
Yeah.
They said, we envision someday.
Oh, I know. I heard that
What
too.
do you envision? I envision that cars will fly. What are you talking? What? You just announced a feature. What? This is aspirational. What? I mean, I thought this event was very strange.
The Windows 365 stuff is really fascinating for like multiple reasons. One, because I think they're doing it like a really neat way of doing this. Like you can boot directly to the cloud stuff, which if you haven't picked up yet, that is where Microsoft wants everybody to go. So like if you don't think, yeah.
Yeah.
And so like that's neat, being able to instantly switch to the desktop because you're all authenticated is great and all that stuff. But what you can see them doing is just chipping away at the ecosystem of partners and solutions that existed prior to them launching Windows 365. And can you imagine trying to compete with that now? Where, oh yeah, our competing solution, we're going against Microsoft. They can boot natively to the cloud desktop, no user interaction. They can switch on the fly. They can do offline mode. Like,
this is very reminiscent of when they introduced Hyper-V, which is first server product. And I remember it was the one, I think it was still called TechEd or Ignite. It was probably still TechEd, but it was the one event of that type that they actually had in Boston. And I met with the woman whose name I know, Diane Green, I think her name was. She ran VMware at the time. And then I think she went to
Google for a bit.
Google Enterprise. And I said to her, you need to file an antitrust lawsuit against this company. And she's like, no, we're going to compete on the merits of the product. And I'm like, that doesn't seem smart to me. They're doing an integration that they're not allowing other companies to do. There's legal precedent, like with browsers in Europe and media players and so forth, where they've been regulated to require a choice. And you get that choice, and you could be the hypervisor in Windows, and then you would be competing fairly. And she's like, yeah, I don't think so. And like, this is kind of like that, right? Like, there will be AWS, already has, and Google probably, there'll be different solutions for running, like you said, Google or Windows in the cloud. And only one of them will boot natively in Windows, with the one from Microsoft. I love history.
Yeah. It was, I agree with your point. It was interesting because there's a lot of, I was hoping, we've heard about this new email app coming. We didn't see any of that, which kind of would have made sense at like a new thing, but maybe Microsoft doesn't want to promote email because they got Teams. And then,
yes. Well, so was this a Windows 11 event, or was it a Microsoft 365 event? Right.
Yeah.
I honestly, when you're talking hybrid work, I think Windows 11 only plays one role in that. In honestly kind of the minority role. I feel like they should have focused more on the broader Microsoft 365 stuff. And it's not like we have some IT event coming up in the spring. You're having a hybrid work event. You're not going to talk about broader Microsoft 365 stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
kind of weird.
It was different. The weirdest thing that they announced too, which it's creepy, is that AI like eyeball thing so you can turn it on and it will make it look like you're always looking at the camera, like even if you're not directly looking at the camera. And it is the perfect description of somebody who looks dead inside. Like, it's really hard to explain. Like, if you go look at their videos when they enable this, it looks like, oh, that's a fleshy human. And then it's just like their soul has been lost.
What is the term? There's a term for when something fake looks too real and it makes it even more fake. What's that term? Shoot, I'm sorry, I can't remember. And my earpiece is falling out. We need a term for what you just said. You're on video and you have dead eyes. It's like
I think that's just called a meeting.
Effect,
So, anyways, that was the Windows 11 hybrid
I mean, did
event.
anything say hit you as being awesome? I mean, I mean, from Panos Panay's kind of fake enthusiasm for security, which as he chuckles as he talks, that
Yeah.
most bizarre of presenters I've ever seen. Um, I, I I don't know as an individual if there was anything that kind of killed it for me. Like I said, there were really interesting, good features. We already knew about half of the stuff. I mean, like
Yeah.
the improvements coming to Snap, it's all good. Like I said, the accessibility stuff, the
Hmm.
global captioning feature, which is something we have on Android.
Hmm.
Uh, awesome. I mean, just you can't. There's no complaining about that stuff. It's great. But I don't know. You know, we're we're looking for the basic stuff here. Can I right click on the taskbar and do something? You know, could all the menus look the same now? Anything?
Mm.
I just like I don't know, just some basic consistency stuff.
Speaking of self promotion and basic consistency, we're going to ship start 11.1.2 today that does the ungrouping in the final form. I got to tell you though, like, so when we were getting ready to launch all this stuff, I may have even said this. I knew this event was coming up, and I was concerned because if Microsoft announced ungrouping coming to the taskbar during this event,
Yeah,
it would have killed like 3-4 months worth of work for us. So we got it out in beta ahead intentionally because I didn't know if we'd be ready in time. And the fact that they didn't announce it, it kind of worked out well for us. But
right.
uh, it makes me want to write a post over on Startup, be like, Start 11 makes Windows 11 enterprise ready because it actually just.
You should.
I probably will.
You should do that. The $6 cure to $1 million
Well, the
problem.
thing was too. You probably caught it. Panos said that and this is a curious stat. I'm not saying he's lying, but he said that Windows 11 adoption is at a faster rate than Windows 10 enterprise adoption in the
Right.
corporate world. There's a cat.
Yeah, my cat is. I'm out in the world, so now my
Yeah,
cat can.
but that stat was
I don't know.
curious because what does that mean? Because I think to your
I
point at the beginning of this podcast where you said nobody adopts the new OS right away, especially Windows 10, like, its first 3 months
right.
of availability. Yeah, maybe Windows 11 was a little bit more adopted, but like, what do we still don't know how many installs of Windows
Hey, look,
11 there are.
there's a lot of stuff. The customer satisfaction score. You know,
Hmm.
who are you pulling?
Yeah.
It's just, I know it's incredible. I this is, geez, I was probably the Windows Phone 8 launch, and
Hmm.
could that be? Andy Lees was still running the business, so whatever. It was probably the last event that he kind of headlined.
Yeah.
That was my first experience with a high level Microsoft executive who had no idea what he was talking about with his own product. Like I had never seen that before. I remember sitting in the audience thinking, my God, like this guy doesn't know anything about this
Yeah, he
product. It's
doesn't use it.
crazy. And Panos Panay didn't say enough about it for me to make that claim, but it did occur to me listening to him. I don't think it astonishes me that to think that this guy could possibly care about business, like he came up out of a hardware line of computers. Like, I don't, is this where, I mean, is this like a passion for this guy? Like, he's acting like it's this awesome thing because he talks the same way about everything. But I just don't, I don't know. There are people in the company who are aligned to this part of the business
Hmm.
and probably can speak passionately about it. But I just feel like it was a little forced, with him.
Maybe. I don't know. It's
I'm
worth a rewatch to see if anybody else comes to that.
buried to get into, but the whole thing rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, I think it's because part of me thinks that it's all because a lot of people listening to this are just Windows enthusiasts. We just like Windows and we just want to hear about Windows. And when you line it up as effectively a Windows event,
Yeah,
and it's not about upgrading and
I,
making Windows better, it's about making Microsoft 365 integration better. By the way, here's a file explorer that we updated. We're not going to tell you when it's coming. Uh,
right.
it felt like they used Windows as a linchpin to get people into the video or the stream, and then like danced around what we all wanted to hear.
I feel bad about this because I actually, I kind of like Windows 11 in a way. Like I like it. I like the look of it.
Yeah.
It's fine. But I also feel like they're emulating the biggest mistakes of the past. I mentioned how like with Windows 8, they dropped they're not a superset anymore. They drop stuff, and
Hmm.
that's a big problem. Windows is a system designed for these complex, powerful devices. That's what it is. It's not a simple thing. And then they're also making the same mistake that Microsoft made previously with Windows Vista, where they're over promising and then they're not delivering it. They did that infamously with the first version of Windows 11. There's a big list of features they
Hmm.
never shipped. Some of them will come, right? We still don't know when. They didn't say anything. They announced it, like you said. They announced all these things. They're like, we don't know when, maybe
So
someday.
they've put themselves, and I'm going to make up a term, and I'm sure it's not made up, but I'm going to call it like PR or marketing debt. Apple does this pretty well because Apple
Right.
announces something and then ships it. So Microsoft has now announced a bunch of stuff, and now they have to ship it, but they don't have an external, like it's not shipping in 2 weeks. So now they've got this
That,
cycle of we've got to actually ship this because we've already announced it, and we're not going to get additional press from it because we've already announced it. Like it's like they're in this
this was the
void
whole
of,
point that Steven Sinofsky was. I mean, and I didn't like the guy, but the one thing I think, the one thing I sort of understand was he didn't want to have the problems of Vista. So he said, look, we're not going to announce anything until we know we can ship it.
yeah.
And for the most part, they did that. There were a couple of minor exceptions, but honestly, like that was the goal, and they achieved that to some degree, especially in Windows 7.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, I don't know what to say. This now we're just like now it's spinny fast videos with animated versions of UIs, and they go flying by, and they have little text things says this is the feature, and you're like, neat.
Yeah.
When do I get that?
Yeah. I also want to point out too,
It's,
actually, I think it's all wired up here. I'll see if it still plays. Yeah. So if you're seeing this on the video feed, this is
yeah,
all a mock. This is not live. We
right.
know that because if you look at this video, you can actually see the taskbar. And Zach Bowden pointed out something really interesting. Remember the issue in the bottom right corner where the line didn't go all the way across?
Yeah,
This, if you look closely at this video, that line doesn't go all the way across. So what that means is that they actually grabbed an image of the taskbar, overlaid it, and then that's a video running in the background. There's other ways to tell too because it says 8 a.m. throughout the entire presentation, and like
yeah.
time
Well,
doesn't
I mean,
change.
this is a problem with this current group. They're big fans of highly produced videos that don't show you the actual UI. Like
Hmm.
they're almost like an aspirational version. Like if this thing was the highest DPI, most perfect display, this is what it would look like. Oh, they'll tilt it so you can see the components in 3D. Like, look, we build it. It's got depth. It's like, yeah, it's actually really flat, isn't it? It really doesn't have much depth to it. In fact, I'm pretty sure the entire point of the Windows 10/Windows 11 UI is that it doesn't have depth. It is literally flat. But they love those videos, and this is kind of a form over function problem where if you get excited by this stuff, God help you. But if you do, you get the real thing, and you're like, oh, this doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So, anyways,
uh,
we'll see when the ships. I think when will the ship sail is the big question.
well. The question also, well, will it all show at the same time, right?
That too.
Yeah.
As I cut you off.